Welcome to Running for the Bus, presented by BKDMC, supported by Runner and hosted by me, Ben Kelleher. Today, I'm excited to be joined here at the National Running Show in Birmingham with none other than ultra-endurance legend, Dean Karnazes. GQ referred to Dean as Superhuman, and Time have listed him as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And for good reason, Dean. He's completed 50 marathons in 50 days, run 350 miles in 80 hours, and says that on a good day, he'll run a marathon before breakfast. Dean, great to see you. How's everything with you?
Things are good, Ben. I'm exhausted after listening to that intro, but everything's great. Yeah,
There's a lot going on.
It's good to be here at the Run Show with you and to be back in the UK.
Absolutely. A marathon before breakfast, is that just a typical day for you, is it?
That's a slacker day. Maybe should run a 50K before breakfast, but no. When I'm really training hard, I like to get up early and run, and even do a double workout, so a shorter, faster run in the evening.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so, I'd love to get into how you started running sort of originally. How did that begin from you?
So on the night of my 30th birthday, I was drunk in a bar in San Francisco, and I hadn't run in 15 years. But I didn't like my life. I was a business guy. I was kind of getting a little pot belly on me. And at midnight, I told my buddies I was leaving. And they said, "Where are you going? It's your 30th birthday. Let's have another round of tequila to celebrate." And I said, "No, I'm going to go run 30 miles to celebrate instead."
Absolutely.
And they looked at me and they said, "But Dean, you're not a runner. You're drunk." And I said, "I am, but I'm still going to do it." So I walked out of this pub, this bar in San Francisco, and I didn't even own running gear at the time, but I had on these silk boxer shorts, like silk underwear. Sure. And I'll never forget, I took off my pants and I threw them down the alleyway, and I just started stumbling into the night heading south, knowing there's a town called Half Moon Bay that was 30 miles away. And I said, just run to there. And about 10 miles down the road, I started to sober up, and I thought, what the hell are you doing? This is a really bad idea. But something felt right. It felt like, yeah, I'm a runner. Like, you used to love this when you were a kid. Those same feelings are coming back, so keep going. Somehow I got there the next day at sunrise, and that was 30 years ago, and I've been an ultra-marathoner ever since.
Yeah, just like that. But it's incredible just to start that journey from there. And as you touched on there, like as the sort of youngster in school, I know you worked with your coach, Jack McTavish, and I believe he gave you some advice that you lived by, and I'd love for you to share that in a moment if you can. And so maybe tell me why it's been so crucial for you.
Yeah, I mean, my first coach, he was kind of a hard ass. He was a military guy, and I was 12 years old at the time, and he kept saying to me, "You got to go out hard. You got to go out hard. You got to go out hard. You got to go out fast." And I said, "Coach McTavish, if I go out hard and fast like that, I'm not going to have anything left at the finish." He said, "Nonsense. Go out hard and finish hard."
Yeah.
So I followed his advice, and I was running the long distance race, which was a mile at the time. This is the longest they had.
Yeah.
And I remember the gun went off, and I started sprinting like it was a 100-meter sprint, and I just kept sprinting and sprinting and sprinting. I didn't even remember there was 4 laps I completed to win this race, but I actually won the race, and I ran right through the finish line. I didn't even know I'd crossed the finish line. I remember they yelling, "You're done, you won, slow down, you could stop." And so everyone congratulated me, and then finally, after everyone had left and the fanfare had died down, Coach McTavish came up to me, and he kind of like Clint Eastwood, he kind of kicked some dirt in the, with his foot, and looked around and said, "So how'd it go?" I said, "Oh, Coach, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun." Yeah. He said, "If it was good, you did it wrong. It's supposed to hurt like hell." And then he turned around and walked away, and that was the last time I ever saw him. Yeah.
Really? Wow. It's such a great story, and sometimes that's what you need, right? You need somebody to really tell you you've got to dig deep and you've got to go for it. Obviously, like from there, you touched on the fact that you fell out of love with running, like between the ages of like 15 and 30. And I was wondering why was that?
Coach McTavish was my first coach, and then I had another coach, Benner Cummings, in high school, and we won the championships when I was a freshman in high school, so my first year of high school. And I thought, this is as far as I'll ever take my running career. Like, that's it. Go out on a high note. So I just said, enough with running. Running's boring. I can spend my time somewhere else. And that was it. I just hung up my shoes and said, you went out as a champion, leave it at that.
So I guess then, like, what brought you back? And like, why did you suddenly, make that decision that night to go out and start running again?
Bad tequila. I don't know. I mean, I think that I kind of followed the prescription for happiness and, go to a good university, get a good corporate job, get a nice paycheck.
Yeah.
I had a company car, I had stock options. I had all these things that were supposed to bring me happiness, and they brought me instead like loneliness. Like I was so unfulfilled. I was so empty inside. And I missed that struggle, that fight that running used to bring to me. So I think it all culminated at that night, at my 30th birthday. And I thought, are you going to wake up a successful businessman at 50, on your third wife, driving a red sports car, with the beer belly and bald? Or are you going to like live a real, an adventurous life? And that was the decision I made that night.
Yeah. And looking back at it now, like obviously you've gone on to achieve some incredible things that, as somebody who's, high flying, doing very well in your career, to make that step, like, why did you then decide, I'm going to go all in? I'm going to really give everything I've got to run?
I started becoming a runner, quote unquote. So I thought I was badass. Like I was running out to the Golden Gate Bridge every day from my house in San Francisco. And I was, it was like 5 or 6 miles, like a 10K. And I was always passing people, I prided myself and no one ever passed me. Come on, it's a jogging trail, like big deal.
Yeah.
So one day I was running home and these two guys passed me as though I was standing still. I mean, these guys were like a different species.
Sure.
And I thought, my God, who are these guys? I gotta talk with them. But they just disappeared over the top of the hill. And I got up to the top of the hill and here are these same two guys and they're doing push-ups. So I'm like, oh, okay, what are you guys doing? And they weren't very talkative group, but they said, we're training for this race. And I said, how far is the race? And they said, well, it's 50 miles.
Yeah.
And I said, hold it. What do you mean 50 miles? Like, that's almost 2 marathons.
Yeah.
Like, are there hotels along the way or campgrounds? The guy said, no, buddy. The gun goes off, you start running, and you finish when you cross the finish line. And his friend kind of looked at him and elbowed him and said, if you cross the finish line. Kind of looking at me like, there's no way this joker will ever cross the finish line. So I went to the library and did some research. This is way before the internet, so I literally had to go to the library, and I found this race, and I mailed in my check, and I went to this 50-mile race, and it was the toughest damn thing I'd done my whole life. I mean, it was so brutal, but I finished, and I was in the medical tent afterward, kind of drooling on myself, trying to take in some nutrition, and I see these same two guys, and they're high-fiving each other, saying, we qualified, and I'm thinking, what'd you qualify for, the insane asylum? Like, it's like, no, we qualified for the Western States 100-mile endurance run. I'm like, wait, there's a race that goes twice as far as this? I said, that's impossible. Tell me about it. He's like, yeah, he starts in a place called Squaw Valley, which is in Lake Tahoe in California. The first 5 miles are the top of the ski resort, and then you run 95 more miles through the mountains. You cross a river in the middle of the night. I said, hold it, at night? You run at night?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, you put on a headlamp and you run. And I said, well, where do you eat? He said, you eat while you run. He said, you cross a river in the middle of the night and you try to get there within 24 hours by sunrise the next morning. And it was just so far beyond anything I could see. And the last thing they said to me when they were leaving is, hey, buddy, you qualified as well. And when they said that to me, I just knew, like, you've got to do this race or you'll never live down this moment for the rest of your life. Like, you'll be thinking your whole life, I qualified for this race and I didn't have the guts, the balls to do it. So I signed up for the Western States, and that was 1992,
That's really where it sort of started and took off for you. And sort of jumping forward a little bit now, in 2004, you've gone from somebody who maybe looked at that 50 miles and thought, like, I could never, then gone on to do the Western States 100 miles. And then, as I say, in 2004, you've gone on to not only run, but win what's known by many as the world's toughest foot race, which is Badwater. Like, if anyone doesn't know about Badwater, could you maybe just describe it for anyone here who is new to it and could be inspired today, maybe?
Yeah, so Badwater is the hottest place on Earth. So the highest recorded temperature ever has been recorded in Badwater. And it's the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere. So it's 282 feet below sea level. 135 miles from that point is the highest point in the contiguous U.S., which is Mount Whitney. And the idea is to run from the lowest point to the highest point, 135 nonstop miles, and it's across Death Valley. And they hold the race in the middle of summer, so the temperatures get above 50 degrees, and it's like running across hell. So that's the Badwater Ultra Marathon.
Yeah. Just incredible, really. And then, as I say, to go from someone who maybe didn't think they could do any kind of distance like that to them winning that, and in some of the toughest, if not the toughest conditions, was phenomenal. What does the training really look like for something like that? How do you train for 135 miles in the hottest conditions and so on?
You do all your base training, of course. You have your core number of miles and your cross training, but I also would go into the sauna at the gym, and I do push-ups and sit-ups in the sauna just to heat acclimate. And I'd also put on my big puffy North Face jacket, my ski jacket, in the middle of summer, and I'd go running in this big puffy jacket in the heat of the day. So you do a lot of like specialized training to get ready for this race.
I'm just imagining you in the sauna and doing all that, and most people will be sort of struggling in the sauna as it is, let alone doing press ups and sit ups, and then people seeing you as well out, wearing your jacket in that heat. People must have been looking at you thinking like, what on earth is going on? Like, did you ever get anyone to be like, are you okay?
I got a lot of strange looks. Yeah, of course.
I bet. Now, as I said, you went on to sort of win Badwater. Like, what's that moment really like when you've gone through the experience, you've traveled all those miles? Like, what is it like to win it?
Well, first of all, I never say I win. I won Badwater. I say survive the fastest, because it's really about survival. So I try to keep it in perspective. I've done the race 10 times now, finished the race 10 times, and each one is a new experience. I mean, certainly finishing the fastest, surviving the fastest was unique, but even some of the years where I just fell apart and had to crawl to reach the finish line, those were special as well.
Yeah. Absolutely, as you say. I mean, you learn so much from those experiences as well, right? All along the way, sort of getting ready for those experiences that you trained for as well. What then made you want to run 50 marathons in 50 days in each state of America? Like, how do you make that step?
So I'm, like you, I'm a marathoner, and I've been running quite a few marathons. And one year I was at the Boston Marathon, and I went to the expo, and they had speakers like here. And there's a man speaking, and he said, I'm part of the 50-state club. And I said, wait, what's that? He said, well, I've run a marathon in all 50 U.S. states. I didn't even know every state of America had a marathon, let alone, that you could link them together. And I asked him, how long did it take you to do this? And he said, it took 18 years. And I thought, I'm not even sure I'll be alive in 18 years. I wonder if you could do it in 50 consecutive days. Yeah. So that was the idea, is to try to piece it together. I didn't do all the planning and logistics myself. I had the agency that coordinated the Olympic torch run across the country. They did all the logistics. And being a marathoner yourself, and I know a lot of people listening to this realize that there's not a marathon like a random marathon in Iowa on Tuesday, right? All the marathons are on the weekend. So how did you run 50 in a row? Well, 8 of the marathons were the actual live marathon in that state on that day. So like I ran Chicago Marathon with 30,000 other people. I ran the Marine Corps Marathon, the New York City Marathon during race day. But for 42 of the marathons, we contacted the race director for the most prominent marathon in that state and said, hey, on this random day, on Wednesday, will you set up your official starting line, let us follow your sanctioned and certified course, and finish at your official finish line? So we had a record of actually doing the marathon. So 42 of the races were recreated, where we just ran the route of the marathon with the guys of the race director.
What an experience doing that, all through different climates and different locations, and all different hours, like times and dates. People must have just seen you out there and been following along and supporting that journey, and it must have been so very special. Like, how did you keep sort of plowing on, going day by day, when things got really tough?
Well, I think the great thing about running the 50 marathons in all 50 states is that we got permits for up to 50 people to join me at each of the recreated races, and they became really popular. You could go online and sign up to run the marathon. You just show up at the starting line of the marathon, and 50 of us would run together. they didn't close the entire route of the course. Like, like on the London Marathon, Marathon Day, they close all the streets. They couldn't do that because there was only 50 of us. So we had like a police escort that would shut down the intersections as we ran through. And it was really great. There's a lot of camaraderie. And I think this made the experience so much better for me, because it wasn't about one guy just trying to prove something. It was about everyone coming together and sharing this in this remarkable this journey.
Yeah.
And it became so popular that we had like a waiting list sometimes for 200 or 300 people to run these marathons, these recreated marathons. So I think it was the other people that really helped get me through it.
Yeah. Just continue to sort of spur you on. And as you say, you did Chicago and New York Marathon sort of within that as well. And did you finish up in New York? Is that right?
Yeah, so New York was the 50th marathon. And, I thought to myself, what's going to happen to your body over 50 days? Like, are you going to break down, or what's going to happen? And actually, the 50th marathon was the fastest of them all. So I ran the New York City Marathon in 3 hours and 30 seconds. So pretty much 3 hours flat. And I just think that speaks to the resilience of the human body. I mean, I didn't break down over 50 days. I actually grew stronger.
Yeah. That's incredible, because New York is a particularly hard course as well. So to go and do your last one that day, that was faster than I did, and I only did the one that day. So very impressive, of course. And so much as well, like you say, you must have took so much away from the experience itself. Like, like if there's some moments or particularly like a sentiment that you took from that experience, I'd love to hear about that.
I think that what moved me the most is that runners are kindred spirits. I mean, people would come out to run with me. We didn't share the same skin color. We didn't worship the same God. We were from different socioeconomic levels. But when we ran, we were united. It was like the one thing that united humanity is our ability to put one foot in front of the other and move at a quicker pace than walking. So it really showed me the universality of running, uniting people in a world that is very divided. And I think that's the message I took away with all the other runners.
100%. And that must have just kept spurring you on, as you say, and you got stronger. I mean, that really shows that when people would think that you would get, weaker and things would get harder, actually you got better and better with that sort of support along the way. And you also have gone on to hold the record for the longest distance ran without a break. So this is a significant achievement in itself, running 350 miles in 80 hours and 44 minutes. And when we say without a break, you're continuing powering on. You're not, taking massive sleep breaks and all of that in that time. How did that impact you physically and mentally in that experience?
Well, I mean, I'll start by saying I fell short of my goal, because I thought I could run for 500 miles without stopping. But after 350 miles, I realized, no, there's no way. So on the third sleepless night, I remember I was running and I woke up in the middle of the road. And I thought, why am I running in the middle of the road? And what's going on here? And so I meandered back over to the shoulder, and it happened again. I woke up and I was running down the middle of the road. And I realized I was sleep running. I was literally falling asleep, and I continued my body to keep running. So, the biggest challenge with running those sort of distances is not necessarily physical exhaustion, but sleep deprivation. So I think it was the sleep that ultimately rendered me unable to go beyond 350.
Just the 350 then. It's an easy day at the office for everybody. I'm actually I'm doing a 24-hour trail race I'm doing the Spitfire Scramble, as I say, in July, and so only 24 hours, but nonetheless, I will give your advice for the sleep deprivation that we're going to experience for that. And there's a really fun story that I know you've shared countless times, but for anyone here, I'm sure it'll be really interesting to get into, about you ordering a pizza and eating it whilst completing in a 200-mile race. Yet, I also know that your diet is slightly different now. Could you maybe talk to me about that and why it's important for you to change maybe from having that pizza in each of your races?
Yeah, so the backstory on this is that I was looking for a race that was longer than the Badwater 135, which is 135 miles, and I found this 200-mile race, but it was a 12-person relay race, and I don't have 11 friends. So I asked him, can I just do it myself, the race director? He said, okay, if you want to try it yourself, you can. So and this is back in 1996, so this is when the first Motorola flip phones came out. I had a Motorola flip phone, and on the second night of running, I was out on this backcountry road, I had no food. I completely ran out of food. I didn't have a crew. I was doing self-supported. But I had my Motorola flip phone and a credit card. So I ordered a pizza. And I had it delivered to me on the road as I was running. And they just rolled it into this big, like, Italian pizzerito and ate the whole pizza as it was running. And it was amazing.
How do you do that?
Well, I mean, how did I do it? One, I said, hey, please don't slice the pizza. Don't slice it. And make it with a really thin crust. And then I just rolled it up from the box, and it was like a big log, and I just mowed it as I ran. And I mean, it got all over me. There's red sauce on my shoes, but it was amazing.
How did it taste at the time? It must have been incredible, right?
Well, people say, how did you eat a whole pizza and run? But it's not like I was running a 10K. I mean, I was running, it took me 46 hours of running. So I was, you get hungry when you're out doing anything for 46 hours.
Yeah.
So it was good fuel. Yeah. But I've since learned something. The pizza crowd is very combative. There's this dividing point with pizza fans, and it's like you're on one camp or the other,
right? And
that is pineapple.
Right.
Like, are you a pineapple on the pizza guy or not? And I am, but I've got a lot of haters now.
Wow, and
a lot of haters out there.
Let's cut this interview. We got to, no, of course. And obviously, as we were touching on as well, you've changed your diet a lot since then. Could you maybe talk to us about what your diet looks like now and why you made those changes?
Yeah, so now my diet is pretty pure. I mean, I like to tell people I can't pick it from a tree or dig it from the earth or catch it with my hands. I won't eat it. So I try not to eat anything that's processed or refined, anything in a bag.
Yeah.
If it comes from a plant, eat it. If it's made in a plant, don't. So I live in most of the time now in Athens, Greece, where I go to the farmers market like twice a week and eat fresh food.
Yeah.
And I think if you get fresh food from the earth, that's the best diet.
Yeah.
My coach, Ben Kelleher, he once told me about diet. He said, Dean, if man makes it, don't eat it. And if it tastes good, spit it out.
That's some solid advice, I would say, as well. And as you touched on there, you made those changes. And how did that impact you as an athlete as well, as a runner?
I think when you look at yourself as an athlete, there's not one thing you can do. I mean, I encourage people to look at themselves through the lens of being the best animal they can be. So maximize everything to be the best animal and for the best performance you can achieve. And that means, good diet, good training, good cross training, good sleep cycles, good sleep patterns, and also good interpersonal relationships. I think if you can optimize all those things, your performance on race day is going to be a lot better. Just your general life is going to be better.
That's so fundamental, isn't it? And I think a lot of the times, different things will fall by the wayside, and maybe too much focus in one area and not enough in another. So that's such great advice given there. And in 2005, actually, you released your first book, Confessions of an All-Night Runner, and obviously that's led you to give some invaluable advice. But what led you to doing it really? Like, what was the reason behind it, and what do you hope people might take away from your writing itself?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to write a book, just like a lot of people, as a goal of life. I mean, just like you want to jump out of an airplane, you want to swim with sharks, you want to write a book. So I said, I'm going to write a book. So I wrote a book, and I thought if 5 of my buddies buy this book, I'll be lucky. And it became, like a New York Times overnight success. Like, it sold millions of copies. It's worldwide. I think it's in translation in 20 languages. And I thought, why do people want to read about this guy doing these obscure races in the middle of nowhere, these really intense races? And I thought, there's power in ultramarathon. It's inspiring. Like, it brings out the best in the human spirit, and people are energized by this and motivated. So I think that's the main takeaway from my books is, yeah, there's stories, but they inspire people. And I don't know what pearl of wisdom I say that gets someone to get off the couch and start running. But a lot of people have come up to me and said, I read your book and now I'm a runner. So it's brought a lot of internal gratification to me.
100%. And I think for many people as well, they don't run 350 miles and maybe feel a little bit disappointed with it. They actually, want to just get out for their first run, maybe start a trail run or maybe a marathon. And so hearing your advice as somebody who's done it and has experienced it, I'm sure is really what inspires so many. It's that invaluable advice that you can only get from doing it. And I think for many, that's what they will be inspired by, and why so many people are so engaged with what you do. And you've been quite candid as well about the moments of loneliness that you've experienced whilst out on runs and in life as well, which is inevitable for anyone who is out, training towards a goal, let alone to the extent of the training that you're doing. Why do you think it was, so vital to acknowledge this and to share this with people?
I think running is a loner sport in general. It's certainly more social now than it was when I first started, but I'm an introvert by nature, and people say to me, "Isn't running boring?" And I say, "Yeah, it is. That's why I like it." I'm pretty overwhelmed by everything nowadays. I mean, the technology, even the show is so intimidating to me. So, I'll go out running this evening, and I won't even take a watch. I won't bring my phone. I won't even know which direction I'm going. I'll just go out for 2 hours and just chill, get bored and find myself again. So I think there's a magic in running in that regard. I certainly like running with others. I like group runs. I like participating in marathons and other events, but I also like running solo in the mountains by myself for sometimes 8 or 10 hours.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, by sharing that and by acknowledging it, for so many people there listening to that, and actually, as you say, when they're maybe overwhelmed or life's maybe challenging, which for all of us it will be, it's having that time to reset and actually enjoy that experience. So what do you do when you maybe go through these experiences and when things do get tough, when you really need to dig deep, and what inspires you to keep pushing on?
A lot of people ask me, what do you think about when things get tough? And I tell them I don't. Thinking is the problem. I try just to focus on one thing, and that's taking my next footstep to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
So I don't look at how much further I've got to go to the next aid station or next stop. I don't think about how much further to the finish. I don't reflect on the past. I just put one foot in front of the other. I say to myself, take your next footstep. Okay, take your next footstep. Take your next footstep. And I repeat that. And it takes discipline because our minds are so active. I mean, even now, as I'm talking, you're listening to me, you're hearing what I'm saying, but then you're thinking, I'm hungry, did I feed the dog? Oh God, my boss is writing me about a project that's due tomorrow morning. I mean, our minds are just constantly occupied with noise. So to bring it all to your next footstep and let these other thoughts just pass through like clouds, it's really clarifying. And it really is, it's almost like a Zen-like trance you can go into, and you can get through some really difficult moments if you're just in the here and now in the present moment of time.
Yeah. It really is invaluable what it can bring to you. And obviously now looking ahead to 2026, we're just going into the second month of the year, but also beyond 2026 as well. What are your goals going forward?
So I've done a lot of, I've run on all 7 continents twice. I've done all kinds of crazy things. I've run the Egypt Silk Road. I've run across the U.S. I've run across Australia. But what I'm trying to plan, and I've been failing at this for the past 5 years, is to run from the lowest point on Earth to the highest point on Earth. So does anyone know the highest point on Earth? It's not a trick question. Yeah, it's Mount Everest. And I'm not going to run to the top of Mount Everest, obviously. I'm going to run to base camp and then try to, trek to the top of Everest. Does anyone know the lowest point on Earth? Jordan, that's right. It's the Dead Sea in Jordan. So running from that point, the lowest point, to the highest point. And hopefully that'll be 2028, maybe even 2029. But that's my next big project, yeah.
Huge, massive goals to the future, and so excited to see you do that, because I have great faith that you will. I'm absolutely certain of it. And that brings me to my final question, actually. And we ask this question to everybody who comes on Running for the Buffs. And it is, what would you say to somebody who looks at your journey, somebody who started really getting into it at the age of 30, not believing maybe what you could achieve, like that you have gone on to now, and says, I could never do that. I can't even run for the Buffs.
I would say, when you start comparing yourself to others, that's the recipe for misery, self-misery and depression. So never compare yourself to others. I mean, even me, I can look to others and say, wow, I'll never be what they are. You don't have to. Be the best you that you can be. People say, I can't run a marathon. Don't. Run a mile. Do the best that you can do. I think the biggest sin in life is just not living up to your potential. So if you can run. Run as far as you can. Be proud of what you do, and you can all have a little inner Dean Karnazes in you, as I have a little of you in me when I think about 100 miles really sucks, and someone else might say, God, running a mile really sucks. So it's the same pain, it's the same journey we're on.
Yeah. And I know as well, you're really invested in sort of supporting the next generation of runners and others that want to get into the sport, and particularly at the Athens Marathon. Just wanted to touch on that a little bit as well.
So, I'm 100% Greek, and I studied classics, and now I divide my time between California and Athens, Greece, where I have a house. And I've been studying, the marathon from its origins, and the story is fascinating. I mean, we hear the story of a runner that runs 26.2 miles and dies at the finish. Maybe we hear that story, but the actual history is incredible. And Marathon is a place in Greece. It's a beautiful beach, by the way. So I go out to Marathon all the time, and I look at the mountains where the Athenians watch the Persians invading, and and then I've so many times I've run from Marathon to Athens, which is the route of the original marathoners. So I don't know if you've ever had a desire to run the Athens Marathon, but it'll be your worst experience ever. It sucks. It's like straight uphill. But when you come around that final corner and you see the Acropolis, looking at, you see the Acropolis up in the sky, and then you finish in this ancient marble stadium, and you hear the drums and the people yelling and the kids throwing flowers. I mean, your knees will buckle and you'll weep. It's the most powerful moment. So if there's one marathon I encourage everyone to try to do, it's the Athens Marathon. And they have a very liberal cutoff. It's 10 hours. So, yeah.
There you go. There's so much to take away from that, and those listening, get involved. Because, the hardest things often bring the greatest reward, as you've just described. As you've been telling me to come and do the Athens Marathon for a little while, and I'm getting there a bit as well. But to say it's the most difficult and horrendous, actually some of the most rewarding is really sad to take away. So thank you for sharing that, and hopefully lots of people will get involved. I want to just thank you for coming on today on this episode of Running for the Bus. So thank you, Dean. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you for listening to this episode of Running for the Bus, presented by BKDMC. Thank you to our guest today, Dean Karnazes, and the team here at the National Running Show, as well as our Deliriously Mad Challengers runner and the podcast stream for their support. You can get 2 weeks free runner coaching using the code BKDMC. Don't forget to head to the Ben Kelleher DMC Insta now to enter our competition to become a Deliriously Mad Challenger yourself and join my Spitfire Scramble 24-hour team. Maybe it'll be you, Dean. We'll get you involved. Plus, you'll find the tread playlist, the Rookie Runners training plan, and lots more. If you've enjoyed the show, well, what are you waiting for? Hit follow and you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. We'd also love to hear from you, so drop us a message or leave a review. See you next time on Running for the Bus, where you can listen and watch on the run, on the bus, or whilst you're running forever.
Thanks for having me run by.